Good evening, Central City. As you probably already know, 2 nights ago there was a huge bomb threat by a madman who calls himself the Trickster. Well, according to Iris West, one of our finest reporters, we had a certain savior that night. That's right, the Silver Streak is real, and he's going by a new name. We have an exclusive interview with Officer Fred CHYRE, who was working directly with the Flash. This guy's bad news. I mean, it's common sense to not trust a guy with super speed. He acts out of anger. He doesn't care who he hurts as long as he gets what he wants. It's my duty to figure out what his deal is and put a stop to the Flash before it's too late. Now, one bomb did detonate that night, killing 3 and injuring over 50, which raises the question, who is this Flash, and is he really enough to keep Central City safe? Barry and August are investigating a murder in the middle of the woods. The corpse is burnt to a crisp. I've never seen anything like this. He's practically dust. There's no way we can identify him. Do we have anything on the murderer? We have an eyewitness. Meet Jessica CRUZ. Barry assumes Jessica will think he's weird due to all their awkward encounters, but luckily she doesn't seem to remember him. Jessica seems incredibly freaked out, and she gets questioned about the murder. She doesn't add much, but she says the murderer has been stalking her and she doesn't feel safe. After searching around, Barry finds a strand of hair from the murderer that he takes back to his lab. Back at CCPD, CHYRE is tasked with protecting Jessica, and Barry runs tests on the hair sample, eventually revealing Mick Rory as the primary suspect. Barry asks Jessica if she recognizes Mick, and she says that she believes he is the murderer. Barry's about to leave when Jessica stops him. Wait, Barry Allen, right? We should get together sometime. I've never really gotten to know you. Yeah, we totally should. Iris sits in her office trying to think of her next article. The Flash has become her entire identity as a journalist. Her father's giving her company. I don't understand. You've become the most famous reporter only behind Lois Lane. What's the problem? I started this job thinking I would mean something to people. It turns out I'm only good for giving the scoop on the Flash, but I don't even know the guy. What am I supposed to write next? People will be disappointed no matter what. You'll find your footing. Trust me, I've read your stuff. You don't need a superhero to be a good writer. Before Barry leaves the crime lab, he checks in on August, who says he'll be visiting San Diego for a while to celebrate his brother's birthday. Barry then heads to Star Labs to run some tests with Garrison. So you said you wanted to run tests on me. What do you want to test? Your lightning. What about my lightning? There's no way you should be able to be safe running at those speeds. I think your lightning trail is part of some sort of protective barrier. How are we going to test that? I have no idea. That night, CHYRE sits in Jessica's apartment reading a book while she sleeps, keeping an eye out for Mick. All of a sudden, he hears a noise coming from the dark. CHYRE stands up, his hand on his gun. Jessica screams and CHYRE runs into her room, finding Mick pointing something at her. CHYRE fires his gun, which averts Mick's attention to him. Mick fires his weapon, which turns out to be a flamethrower. CHYRE just barely dodges the flame and begins a standoff with Mick. There's a couple close calls, but both Mick and CHYRE are able to make it through the fight alive. Jessica's apartment gets engulfed in flames, and CHYRE is able to land a shot on Mick's leg, causing Mick to flee. CHYRE grabs Jessica and escapes from the apartment with her before it burns down. Barry then hears about what happened and suits up to take down Mick. Barry tunes into a police scanner and follows Mick's tracks. Barry hears that they found Mick's base and runs straight there. Barry realizes that Mick fled his base, but also notices several highly advanced weapons that can cause a lot of damage. How does a guy like Mick have access to weapons like these? Barry leaves right before the cops arrive. The next day, Barry meets up with Garrison to test his speed. You know, I've been reading up on Mick, and there's no way he should have access to those weapons. Wait, Mick Rory? Yeah, why? Nothing. Name just sounds familiar. Okay, are we gonna run some tests? Barry and Garrison go out to an open field, and Garrison hooks up Barry's suit to some devices. Then he instructs Barry to run in a straight line as fast as he can. This isn't working. I'm gonna need you to phase like you did the other night. Barry attempts to phase, but it doesn't work. I can't, it's not working. What do you mean? I've seen you do it. That was in the spur of the moment. I can't concentrate it. Just stop. We'll have to test my Speed Force theory some other time. Speed Force. I like that name. CCPD is conversing on how to capture Mick. He's become a threat ever since they found out about the weapons he possesses. They eventually come up with a plan to hold Jessica as bait for Mick, which CHYRE doesn't approve of. CHYRE has grown close to Jessica ever since he was assigned to protect her, and now he truly cares about her. The cops take Jessica to the middle of a park and have her post on her social media that she's there. Sure enough, 30 minutes later, Mick arrives, but he came prepared for the cops. He brought a flamethrower 10 times more powerful than his last one. The heat of his flamethrower is so powerful that it's able to melt the cop cars. Mick grabs Jessica, but before he can hurt her, Barry suits up and arrives on the scene. Mick blasts his flamethrower and Barry dodges it, but the heat is so strong that his boots melt. How is that possible? These are incredibly heat resistant. Mick creates a giant ring of fire around him and Jessica, and then gets ready to execute her. Garrison, what do I do? I don't know, Barry. Aren't you supposed to be some science prodigy? Barry realizes that he might be able to starve the fire by sucking all the air away. Barry twirls his arms so fast that he creates a wind vortex that sucks all the oxygen away from the fire. After doing that for a little bit, the fire dissipates. Barry runs through his melted boots and knocks out Mick, saving Jessica. CHYRE goes to comfort Jessica and DARRYL arrests Mick. Barry leaves, not wanting to run into another encounter with CHYRE. The next day, Barry meets up with Mikey at Jitters to celebrate him being released from the hospital. You're looking a lot better. Turns out my injuries weren't that bad after all. Jessica approaches Barry and tells him that since her apartment burned down, she'll be out of town until she finds a new place. But when she gets back, they should go out sometime. What did I miss? Barry visits his dad at Iron Heights and tells him that his life is finally starting to shape up. I feel like the only thing I'm missing is you. It just feels like a real disservice letting you sit in here. Live your life, Barry. Seeing you happy is the only thing I want right now. That night, Barry arrives at Star Labs as the Flash for some more testing with Garrison. But instead of Garrison, he finds 3 men panicking in Garrison's lab. An old man approaches Barry. Mr. Flash, I'm sure you're confused. We are Garrison SLATE's closest ring of colleagues. He is on the brink of death, and we need your help to save him. The 3 men are Martin Stein, Ronnie Raymond, and to Barry's shock, Mikey Carter.